Hello. In this video, we're going to take a look at the firewall configuration options that are available on the NSE 3000. Can I assume that you've had a chance to onboard the NSE 3000 and it's being managed by the cloud management system? So to get to the firewall configuration, you get to the NSE groups. And once you get to the NSE group, just click on firewall here. So by default, all traffic coming from WAN to LAN is blocked, so you don't need to do anything explicitly for that. In case you have any specific need to allow all traffic from WAN to LAN, you can click on this, but that's definitely not recommended. So for outgoing rules, if you want to apply any filters, you need to drop any traffic. The outbound filter rules is the section to do that. But before we get into the details of the firewall, we'll just take a small detour to the groups. So this is going to come in very handy. All right. Now you'll find there are three different kinds of groups here. You see user groups, IP groups, and application groups. So user groups are basically a way to sort of segregate all your LAN segments into logical kind of zones. Right. For example, I have created two user groups here. Let's say if it's a school. So I've created two user groups, one with teaching staff, and I've put in the subnets related to the teaching staff. And I've created another group called students, and I've added the subnets for the students, the ones that are going to be assigned to the students in the school, right? So it's very easy for you to do that. You can go here, add a group, give a name, description, and just type in the subnets, right? And you can add many of these subnets. In future, this is gonna, get things like VLAN ID, so you'll be able to just add VLANs and then, use it as a part of user groups. But that's in the upcoming releases. Similarly, you have IP groups, right? Typically, again, used if you want to just club a number of subnets or IP ranges under a single banner and then use it to target that and add rules to target that particular IP group. Application groups are, again, if you want to create your own custom bouquet of applications that you want to target in, let's say, in your firewall, right? So let's say my blocked applications, right? And you can then look for applications, right? For example, let's say I'll create a bouquet of my own applications that includes BitTorrent, right? I'll say add, let's say YouTube. Yeah, YouTube, add. So I can add stuff, either, I can look them up by applications or I can include an entire category as well. So for example, I'll probably also add, let's say games, all right? And then I've created my own group now, and that says all the, a list of applications and categories, right? Later on in other areas of the NSE 3000, you can just, target this entire block of applications or categories by using this particular name, right? We'll get to that. All right. Once you've done this, you can hit save. All right. Let's do that. All right. Okay. We've done this. Now let's get back to the firewall section. All right. So we'll start with the basic, outbound firewall rules. So you go here, you click on add new. You give it a name, for example, let's say blocked applications. All right, no, this is just the precedence. I hit 1. It's my first precedence rule. Give it as this thing, blocked applications. Action is, of course, deny. You can also have permit actions if you want to allow a certain subset of the things that you have already blocked. I can either choose IP based, in which case, as you see here, you can give the source IP subnets and the destination IP. If you don't have any specific destination IP, you can put any. Similarly, if there is no, you're not restricting it to a certain set of source IPs, you can put source of any as well. But for this example, let me just pick an application based one. And here you'll see this that either I can pick the deep packet DPI type, right? Either I can pick an application to block, category to block, or application group. All right, since we have already created an application group with the list of all the applications that we need to be blocked, we can just choose application, right? We can pick the application group that we created earlier. Okay, now we've decided what to block. Now the next part is whom to block it for. Do you want to block this for all your users? Or do you want to only block it for a specific user group, right? So let's say I pick specific user groups, and we had created two user groups earlier, teaching staff and students. And let's say, I block this just for students, right? So you see the utility of, doing the groups first, right? You had a user group, you had application groups, and then you can just say add. At a later point in time, if you want to create another subnet for the students user group, you just add the subnet there and save, and the firewall rule will apply to the newer subnets as well. So this makes it really easy, right? So we just added an outbound firewall rule. In addition to it, you have some general denial of service protection. You can choose to turn these on. We then come to the geo IP filters. So using this, you can actually restrict both incoming and outgoing traffic. The WAN to LAN filters dictate, whether you are okay to accept, whether you want to block traffic coming from certain countries, all right, or you want to allow only traffic coming from certain countries. Let's say, so you have all these options. You have allow only, and then you can pick a country and say that, in this case, any connections that are originating only from Indonesia in this example are accepted, right? Because it's an allow only filter. Similarly, you can put this to deny only. And in this case, any connections emanating from Indonesia are denied or blocked, right? This is for WAN to LAN filters. Again, typically you also have exceptions. So, if there's some particular IP ranges or IP subnets that you want to exclude from this list, you can add them here. Similarly, you have LAN to WAN filters. These are for outgoing connections, right? Typically, you may want to, let's say, deny only and, block traffic going to certain countries, right? And say that, hey, I want to block, in this case, all traffic going to China, right? Or you may want to also block some other countries which are usually, known to host certain servers. If you want to block all the access going to those countries, you can choose to do that as well, right? You typically, again, have the exception list as well. What are the other things in the firewall section? You also have the port forward and the NAT policies available here. So you're seeing a port forward option here. Port forward is if you want to forward traffic destined for the WAN IP address of the NSE, and then you want to redirect it to a LAN server inside your network. Port forward rules is the place to do that. So you can choose add a port forward rule, right? If you want, you can add a description. Which one do you want to target? Do you want to target connections landing on WAN 1 or WAN 2, right? The protocol TCP or UDP. Which port number? For example, let's say 8080. Okay, where do you want to redirect to on the LAN? I can say 192.168.200.12. LAN port is 80, right? Again, an interesting option here is, do you want to allow all connections to be port forward? Or do you want to restrict it to a specific set of IPs, right? Let's say, you have a service running inside your office or enterprise, and you want to be able to access it from home. But you want to make sure that it's only available to you, right? And not anybody else on the internet. Then the right way to do it is create an IP group, add the subnets from where you're expected to access this service, right? Typically it could be your home, stuff like that, and then allow it only to that particular IP group, right? So you can add those IP ranges to and form an IP group, and then use it and add the port forward rule. So anybody else trying to get to this on the internet, it doesn't respond. This is the recommended way of setting up port forwards on the NSE 3000. Similarly, we have two more variants of sort of port forward rules. One is the NAT one-to-one rule. Again, both NAT one-to-one and one-to-many only apply if you have additional IP addresses on the WAN interface, right? Because if you just have one, it's already taken up by the WAN interface and you need to use the port forward rule. But if you have an additional IPs and you want to sort of dedicate it to a LAN server, that's NAT one-to-one. All right, you come here and let's say I have an additional public IP address. Just for the sake of this example, I'll just take 1.10. So I can redirect it to LAN 192.168.200.12, TCP or UDP, and that's it, add. So any traffic coming on 1.10 that lands on our WAN interface is automatically redirected to 100.12, all ports, right? Any port traffic gets redirected, right? Based on your TCP or UDP selection, right? Again, I would like to iterate that this is only if you have external additional IP addresses available on the WAN, right? That was NAT one-to-one. NAT one-to-many is very similar, except that in this case you have an additional IP address, but based on the port you can redirect it to different, computers on the LAN, right? Or different servers on the LAN. That's NAT one-to-many, right? So this is a brief overview of all the firewall features that are there on the NSE 3000. Thank you.